My name's Evan. I am one of the partners here at Optimal TMS. Our clinical director, Thomas, unfortunately had some scheduling conflicts tonight, but he would be more than happy to talk to any and all of you to schedule a consultation to talk about how TMS could be right for you. So I guess to get things started, how many of you, John already asked, raise of hands, just so I can see, how many of you have heard of TMS before? All right, so a handful of you, awesome, great. How many of you have gone to the gym before? All right, bigger handful of you, awesome, great. So the gym is great because you get a chance to work out different parts of your body and focus on certain muscle groups, and you can do, back day, biceps, triceps, squats, whatever. And you can train focusing on specific muscle groups. That's a little bit harder to do with your brain. TMS is a way to do that. So we're going to talk about a couple of different things tonight. First off, what is TMS, what it's FDA cleared for, what the evidence is, and then some really cool, exciting, emerging research in the field. And then a little bit more about who's a candidate who could benefit from TMS. So first off, what is TMS? Sorry, the text is a little bit small there, but TMS is a form of non-invasive brain stimulation. How many of you have used a TENS unit for muscles? Okay, so does everyone know what that is? You put the electrodes on your arm, it makes it move without you thinking about it. It's kind of weird, kind of freaky. TMS can do that for your brain. So in the 80s, there were some scientists at University of Sheffield that were playing around with some electric coils. You can coil copper wire into certain shapes, and then it can produce a really strong magnetic field. They were thinking about it, and they're like, okay, magnetic field, if you hold it by the right kind of material, it can induce an electric current. So same principle, electromagnets, there are a lot of things that run on magnetic fields, like the trains in Japan. It's a really strong electric current that goes through, makes a magnet, makes them lift off the ground, makes them move forward really, really fast. Same principle can work in your brain. Your brain is basically a whole network of wires moving from one part of the brain to another. And with the right technology, in the right shape, in the right fashion, the right amount of energy delivered, you are able to use that magnetic field to induce an electric current in very specific spots in your brain. So typically that's kind of hard to do. There are some treatments out there called deep brain stimulation for really, really severe depression, where you can go in and do brain surgery and actually implant electrodes into the brain, Neuralink kind of stuff, where you can use electricity directly to influence the brain. Most people, how many here like getting brain surgery? No hands, okay. Me neither. If there is a way to stimulate your brain without brain surgery, then we'll take it, right? So with TMS, they realized, okay, cool, it can stimulate the brain. And then as they were trying some things out with it, they realized, wait a minute, this can help a lot with depression. This can help a lot with anxiety. This can help a lot with mood disorders, depending on where the coil is placed. And this all happened in the 1980s, before they really had MRI, before they could really tell what was going on exactly in the brain. But over the last 40 years or so, we've come up with some really, really cool discoveries about what it is doing in the brain and how it can help with mood. In 2008, TMS became FDA cleared for the treatment of major depressive disorder. How many of you know somebody who suffers from depression? It's terrible, and there are so many ways out there that people are trying to help with depression, with medications, meditation, all of these different things. TMS is another modality for that. It's FDA cleared in 2008. And it is currently FDA cleared for major depressive disorder, and then a lot more recently, anxious depression, acute suicidal ideation, OCD, smoking cessation, and currently undergoing a lot of clinical trials for PTSD that are very, very promising. With some of these different conditions, TMS, depending on where you treat in the brain and what treatment schedule you follow, you can see a lot of different results. So I know it sounds kind of weird to say this, this one machine, it can help with anxiety, it can help with OCD, it can help with performance enhancement, dementia, all of these different things. That makes it seem a little like, how can it do all of that? But because all of those are based in the brain, and because TMS can stimulate the brain directly, you are able to help out with so many different conditions. And there are researchers all over the country working on figuring out new ways to help people with it. So I say a lot that it helps with depression. What does it do? In depression, there are certain brain networks that are underactive. And when somebody is suffering from depression, it can be hard to get out of bed in the morning. It can be hard to move. It can be hard to get going and find the motivation to do things. And what TMS does is it works out those specific areas of the brain. It stimulates them over and over and over again to basically retrain the brain to say, oh, this is how I'm supposed to be working again. This is how I'm supposed to be firing. And all of those wires that are in the brain, all the connections that it has from here to here, all over the place, start firing and working the way that they're supposed to again. So with antidepressants, they work really well for a lot of people, but they also have a lot of system-wide side effects. They can cause a lot of changes in sleep, mood, sexual function, all sorts of different things that can be messed up from antidepressants because they're system-wide. You take a pill and then it affects not just your brain, but also your whole body. TMS is different. It works specifically at the points in the brain where the networks are dysregulated from depression. The traditional TMS is once a day, every day for about 6 weeks. And that has, depending on the study you're looking at, 37% full remission, 58% of people notice a response, and this is for treatment-resistant depression. So that's really good. That's really impressive for somebody who has not responded to any medications or anything like that. A few years ago, researchers at Stanford University said, okay, that's once a day for 6 weeks. What if we gave somebody more TMS? What if we push that schedule together? Because that's also tough to, take off work, come to the clinic every day, get treatment, go back home. It disrupts your schedule pretty majorly. And the researchers at Stanford started talking about what can we do to make this better, to make this faster. And they came up with a 5-day protocol where you come into the clinic every day for 10 hours a day for 5 days. And that protocol had an 82% remission rate from treatment-resistant depression. 82% of people who didn't get better from traditional medications, talk therapy, all of these things, came into the clinic for 1 week and they were able to get better. Some researchers in Canada last year said, okay, 5 days is great, but that's still a week off of work for a lot of people. That's a lot to ask. What if we can do it in 1 day? So they tried pushing it together even closer, 20 sessions in a day for 1 day, and 90% of people got better from that 1 day of treatment.
I've done it. The 1 day was awesome.
And it's intense. It's a full day, but it's just 1 day. And part of the way that they did that, they were able to take a medication that was originally a tuberculosis antibiotic. Did some research in mice and in people and found out, this tuberculosis antibiotic actually does a lot of cool stuff in the brain. Makes the brain easier to change. There's a concept called neuroplasticity. It means your brain's natural ability to change, to make changes, make new connections, form new things. All of us have that throughout our life. And what TMS does is it boosts that neuroplasticity. This 1 dose of a medication called D-cycloserine also boosts neuroplasticity. So they're able to make those 20 sessions in that 1 day way more effective. And it worked so well for depression, they started trying it out and saying, okay, what can this do for anxiety? What can this do for PTSD? What can this do for dementia? All sorts of different things. And there has been some really promising research. I've only talked about this with some of the people who have done the research. It's not published yet because it just happened a month or two ago. But veterans who came in for PTSD treatment, it was 1 day of treatment, this little spot in the back of the head that's connected to a lot of memory centers of the brain. They were able to treat that with TMS. And almost everybody noticed results and got better quickly within a couple of days of TMS treatment. So it's able to boost these connections in the brain and make it so that your brain is firing in healthy patterns again, patterns that could have been disrupted from trauma, from abuse, from depression, from anxiety, from any of these things that mess with your brain. TMS is able to take it and make your brain remember what it's like to fire in healthy ways again. talked a little bit about this earlier, but TMS does very specific things in the brain. It's not like you can just go in with a battery and poke around in the brain and say, yep, this is going to fix everything. You have to know exactly what you're targeting, where you're targeting, how you're doing it. And there was a study that came out actually just this last week where researchers figured out exactly what TMS is doing in the brain. And what it can do is it can target specific neurons in the brain, specific types of neurons, and make long-lasting changes in these cells. So it has the same, it does the same thing in the brain as learning. And with these 20 sessions in a day of TMS, how many of you have ever crammed for a test before? Might have been a few years, but crammed for a test. It's a lot, but it's a lot more effective when you study over time, right? When you do a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. If someone has you memorize a whole list of 20 names, it's a lot more effective to practice that list 5 or 6 times throughout the day instead of just staring at it for an hour. It's because that's the way that our brains work. They make connections, and the more we use those connections, cut out for a second here, there we go, we're back. The more you use those connections, the stronger they get. So this treatment is basically taking your brain to the gym and working out specific muscle groups depending on where you target on the head. Now, TMS also has a lot of applications beyond just mental health conditions. There have been some really fascinating studies here. And again, a lot of this research is preliminary. There's just some new research coming out of some cool universities doing a lot of this stuff on improvements in working memory, improvements in executive function, learning acceleration, attention, focus, creativity. Because all of these things are areas where our brains can be overactive or underactive, and TMS can help balance those out. They did one study with MMA fighters, and they had MMA fighters kick a pad as hard as they could, as many times as they could, for 20 seconds, and then they rested for like 2 seconds or something like that. And what they found was athletes who had just been treated with TMS they had a 20% reduction in reaction time, which is a lot in the world of fighting. That's pretty, that's the difference between getting kicked in the face and kicking someone else in the face. They also had a big reduction in fatigue. A lot of times when we wear out while we're exercising, it's not that we're physically so worn out that we can't do anymore, but it's that our brains kind of send a signal saying, hey, you're getting a little close to the edge, let's stop. And this is able to overcome that mental block and make it so that you can really perform up to the max of your potential. Athletic and physical performance, fatigue resistance, recovery enhancement, something called motor cortex priming. Depending on where you treat in the brain, you can get the brain ready to receive signals and be a little bit quicker about reacting to them. There have been some cases that I've read about college athletes that'll go in for treatment for depression, and then they'll be treated on their motor strip of the brain, and just to improve their reaction times and get a little bit of a head start. And in a 100-yard sprint, a little bit of a head start makes a big, big difference. So depending on where you treat in the brain, it can help with time to exhaustion, help with getting athletes to perform better and perform longer. And a lot of this, regulatory boards still aren't exactly sure what to do about it, because it's hard to test and say, it's easy to test for drugs. It's hard to test and say, that someone's brain's been tampered with. So there are some caveats for that, and there's a lot of discussion going on about that, like how.
Business too, right?
Yeah. So with that, a lot of the areas of the brain that we're targeting, specifically the area for depression, is called the left dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. It's right around here in the brain, just above your temple. And that's an area that is involved in a lot of decision making, executive function, being able to react and respond to different events. And it makes sense why that would help out with depression. You boost activity in that area, all of a sudden you have more motivation, more drive to do things. You start getting the ball rolling, and then everything else can take over. But this TMS can break down the wall and get that first step done. With, like Hannah was saying, business decisions, it's an executive function center of the brain. So by highlighting activity in that area and boosting it, then you're able to react well and respond better. There's also a lot of good, promising results for dementia, for Alzheimer's, with treating memory centers of the brain. Some of those results have been a little bit more mixed. Again, everybody is different, so everybody responds a little bit differently. And then also helping with personality. As any of us with loved ones with dementia know, that sometimes mood and activity and affect can kind of start to slip as you go on and progress further in the disease. And TMS can help bring loved ones back. And the dementia is still going to be there, but it can help people to really connect with, a parent or a spouse or a loved one again. And that's something that I've seen. I've been working in this field for a couple of years now, and starting a PhD program in the fall specifically to study this and all of the cool things that it can do. And I have seen, there was a patient who came in, there was an older couple that we were treating, the husband had dementia, and he looked at his brain scan, and it was pretty advanced. He was able to have a conversation, but would keep looping back to the same topics and wouldn't really engage, wouldn't really get out of his shell. We did a few rounds of TMS on him just as a test, as a trial, to say, what, there's some promising evidence out there in the research. We want to see if this works on real people. And his wife gave us a call the next day and said the most amazing thing happened. We were driving, we were on the road, just on the mountain by our house, and all of a sudden he asked me a question. He started a conversation with me. He hadn't done that in 2 or 3 years. Another gentleman with dementia, he was a little bit further along, would repeat himself a lot, tell the same stories over and over again. His family, after the first couple of days of TMS treatment, took him to the gas station, and he got out of the car and he grabbed the gas pump. His wife was like, "What is going on?" And started like, "Shh, Mom, just let this happen. We'll see." And it took him a while to kind of figure out what was going on, but then he was able to put it into the right spot in the car, pump the gas, and he hadn't done that in 2 or 3 years. So just these little improvements in problem solving and ability that you're able to notice because you're boosting these areas of the brain that haven't been turned on in a long time. So just to recap before we do a quick little demo on John so you can see what TMS actually looks like. There is a lot of really strong evidence for TMS for major depressive disorder, for OCD, smoking cessation, suicidal ideation, stroke rehabilitation, migraine prevention, headaches. There's a lot of really solid research on that. There's a lot of very promising, very new research. This is something that has taken off just in the last 2 or 3 years for working memory, executive function, for motor learning, for fatigue resistance, creativity, sleep quality improvement, general cognitive performance enhancement, being able to do better. I've done TMS, and I've just noticed a general better ability to multitask. I haven't done a whole 20 sessions in a day, but I have, with the few sessions that I've done, noticed that I can get my work done better and faster than I could have without it. Who is TMS for? Anybody with any kind of mental health condition that I've covered so far. With major depressive disorder, OCD, anxious depression, who haven't really seen any response from traditional antidepressants, talk therapy, things like that. Also for high performance professionals, anyone who wants a little bit of an extra competitive edge in their business, the ability to focus, the ability to multitask, keep track of all of the things that you have to juggle on your plate. For athletes and for anyone who's just looking to optimize their mental performance. It's a little bit of a tune-up for your brain. It's taking your brain to the gym, and you can target specific areas based on the performance enhancement that you want to see. You want a little bit less anxiety? Great, we'll treat on this side of the head and do a protocol that can train the brain to not freak out to all the stimuli that it's being given. You want some help with mood boost, focus, cognitive performance? Great, we'll treat on this side of the head. Question, yeah.
Like, I'm afraid of heights. What would you guys do? Something like that.
That one, I don't know that there's any specific. It would probably be an anxiety protocol. Yeah. Yeah. Because there is some.
What about concussion protocol?
Concussion protocol, it also has a lot of good promise for traumatic brain injury. That tends to, a brain injury can disrupt the way that the brain connects. And after a brain injury, your brain is amazing at healing itself. That's some of that neuroplasticity that we were talking about earlier, where after a brain injury, your brain learns how to do things in a new way, but that new way might not be the most efficient. You know how when you get to a stoplight and the stoplight's out, everyone knows what to do. Everyone treats it as a four-way stop. There's never really any major crashes at that, but it's way slower than it was before. With traumatic brain injury, the same thing happens in your brain. Your brain knows what to do. It'll make it work, but it'll be slower. You'll be more tired. And TMS can help go in and repair the stoplight. It'll make it so that all the connections form in the way that they're supposed to, and you can get back to functioning the way you were before the injury. Yeah.
Can TMS help people get off of antidepressants? Because that's quite a transition.
It can, yes. And that is something that we have here. We're working with our psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, and he is good with medication management, talk therapy, those kinds of things. And it's not perfect for everybody. Not everybody is going to come off of medications after TMS. But if that's a goal that you're working towards, that's something that can be built into your routine. And TMS can, I've seen it help people come off of medications entirely. All right.
Do you guys just do the VA that offer this, or where can veterans go to get these protocols?
We are one of the very few places that offers some of these accelerated protocols, and protocols specifically for PTSD. There are a lot of other TMS clinics out there because the 6-week protocol, once a day for 6 weeks just for depression, is covered by insurance. A lot of these newer accelerated protocols are not, and that's our goal, is to make this new science that's out there that is super, super promising available to everybody. So there aren't a lot of places that they're getting there. They're getting there.
Another question: veterans, police officers with PTSD. Have you had trials and been successful?
We have not had trials at this clinic yet, but there have been other clinics. We use the device of a company that their goal is 1 billion remissions. They're trying to make TMS available everywhere. And the people that we work with at this company have done trials specifically for police officers, veterans with PTSD, and seen incredible results.
A lot of white papers?
Yep. There are a couple of those coming out soon. There will be one presented at a conference this summer, and then it should be available as a white paper after that. Yes?
I'm sure there's protocols for addictions like shopping, sex, smoke cessation, all that.
There is, yes. Some of those are some different TMS coils, but that is something that we are able to treat and target and help with. We mainly focus on depression and anxiety, but a lot of those centers are very tied, and OCD, but a lot of those centers are very tied to the same things, right? Yeah. OCD, that compulsion, that kind of a thing, you're able to then boost that network in the brain to break the cycle, break the pattern. Yes?
Is there an age limit? Is this something that a teenager could use for anxiety?
We currently treat 18 and above. It is FDA cleared for 15 and above, but just because of some of the complexity with teenagers, we haven't done that as much. We do work on a case-by-case basis, so depending on the person, because it's not like the brain knows, hey, I woke up this morning and I'm 18, great, it's good to go. So on a case-by-case basis, we can talk with the individual. Yes?
Are you local, and how do we get in touch with you?
We are. We actually operate right in this space, just right here. So the treatment room is just in the back room right there. And then the fitness center is ours for the TMS patients. And you can get in touch with us. I have some flyers on the table over there. And with our treatment options, so we have our 1-day and 5-day treatment options. The 1-day treatment option is $29.95. If you sign up tonight, I've talked to our business partners and agreed for a $500 discount on that. And then if you get payment tonight, then it is $1,000 off. So anyone who is interested, I can sign up and add you to a list, and you can meet with our clinical director, and you can talk through all of the indications and see what program or what protocol would be right for you. Yes?
How long is the given? Is it a permanent solution, or is there shelf life on it?
Great question. And a lot of it, you're going to hate this answer, but a lot of it depends on the person. There have been some great studies where somebody will come in for the 1-day treatment, and then it'll last for about 6 months. And then they'll come in again for a booster, then it'll last another 6 months, and then again for a booster. And then after a few of those, then your brain kind of realizes, oh, this is the normal that I'm supposed to be at, and they're fine. So some people come in once and do great. Some people need additional tune-ups every once in a while just to help the brain stay firing in the right way. And it's most effective when paired with other therapies to help those thought patterns engage during that window of neuroplasticity. Yes.
So I take a lot of lion's mane. Does that improve or not do anything for that process?
My guess is it would help. I know that a lot of the mushrooms, yeah, a lot of things out there. Some of the only things, there are some certain antidepressants that can change the seizure threshold that we want to kind of be wary of, because TMS does carry a very small risk for seizure. It's like 1 in 10,000 or something. So you're more likely to get in a crash on the way to the TMS clinic than get a seizure from TMS, but still something to be aware of. So it's not very appropriate for anyone with a history of epilepsy or active seizures, but not every medical treatment is for everybody. Does anyone else have any other questions about TMS? Yes.
So, Evan, how does it work? You're going to hook it up to my buddy John, and it's going to go ahead and scan all of John's brain and look for the parts of his brain that are a little less optimized than other parts. So you flood the whole thing, or do you do an assessment before to see where some of the weak spots are, and you're going to focus on that?
Great question. A lot of that is based on symptoms. There are a few main hubs in the brain that we target. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is one of them. The left side for depression, for dementia, for focus improvements. The right side for anxiety, and then the back of the head here in an area called the precuneus for dementia and PTSD. So a lot of it is based on symptoms. These aren't really things that you can see on a brain scan, but based on the symptoms and then based on dozens and thousands of MRI studies that have been done on people, we know which areas of the brain are the right areas to target. So I think now would be a good time for a demo. John, if you want to come up here. Yes, one more question. As far as I know, there isn't any research on how it affects brain parasites. It's just localized and it affects the brain networks. But if there are parasites in the brain, I don't think it would really have any effect on them. But I don't know based on the research. Yes.
Can you do it if you have metal plates in your head?
Depending on where they are in the head. If they're in the scalp or skull, it can be a little bit difficult. If they are lower in the jaw area, it can be okay depending on the size of the metal.
What about the neck?
Neck is usually okay.
Very cool.
All right.
I'm down.
Great. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate what this looks like with John. John, if you want to pull up a chair right here. I'll turn off the microphone for now. Okay. Great. All right. So John, if you want to sit right about here. Sorry, I've got to move things around with the machinery.
Get to see my freshly dyed hair.
All right. So the first thing with TMS, everybody's head is a little bit different. So the company that we work with has these amazing caps. You'll get to see what John looks like wearing it here. And depending on the size of the head from right about here, the bridge of the nose, to the back of the head, little bump on the back of the head, that determines which size cap you get, and then that shows us where we should treat. So John, I'm going to put this measuring tape on your head here. I'm going to hold this right here, on the bridge of your nose. Go back here, right to the bump at the back of your head, and looks like you are 31 centimeters. So then I'm going to find the cap, and yep. All right. So it looks like this cap is the right size for John. I'm going to go ahead and put it on. And John didn't know that this cap was coming out. So this is the first that he gets to see of it, and you all get to see. It's going to be memorialized on YouTube forever.
Yeah.
So go ahead and put this on for me, just like that. And then I'm going to make some little adjustments on it here. If you want to strap that under your chin with the Velcro.
Going swimming.
Looks great.
I said, and he's gonna. Are you fashioning?
If you can just, strap the Velcro, and then I'm just going to make some adjustments. Perfect. All right. So this helps, smooth down the hair and make it so that everything's in the right spot. I'm just going to center this right at the bridge of his nose here. Sorry, I'm going to grab your head. Move this, make sure it's on the right spot in the back of the head. Make sure everything's lined up with the middle of his head and the ears. All right, looks good. And now you can see all of these little dots that are on the cap. It's a little hard to see in the back. They're pretty small. But those dots show me where different parts of his brain are based on studies. So this spot right here is where we would treat for depression, for focus. This spot over here is where we would treat for anxiety. The spot over here is where we would treat for PTSD. And that's not very exciting to see. You can't really tell when somebody's brain's getting hit and you're like, yep, that's working for that in the moment. But there are certain areas of the brain that you can see. So what we're going to do for John here is I am going to show you what it looks like to make John's thumb move just by stimulating his brain.
Oh, I can't wait for this.
All right?
Now you got me excited.
All right, you ready?
You know, for the weird stuff.
This is the fun stuff. All right. So this one's pretty cool. John, if you can give me, so the right side of your brain controls the left side of your body, left side of your brain controls the right side of your body. I'm going to be stimulating the left side of John's brain. John, if you can give me a little thumbs up with your right hand right there. All right. And now this area here is roughly where the thumb control area is. I don't know if I'm going to get it first try. Everyone's brain's a little bit different, so it might take me a couple tries just to see if we get a response. John, you're going to feel a little tap on your head, and your thumb is going to twitch. All right? Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Did you see that?
No, I didn't do it.
Everyone else saw it.
You didn't feel it?
I felt the thing. I didn't feel my thumb move.
All right.
What did it feel like?
Like a little shocking thing.
All right.
But not like intrusive, not like a ow, like a just
Yeah,
like a, oh,
just a little bit of a thing. So we're going to do one single pulse this time. John, if you want to look at your thumb while this is going on. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. This one I'm going to have to turn it up a little bit more. Here we go. There's a tiny little move there. Got some face twitching. There we go. There it is. There's a thumb move. Everyone see that? So the magnetic coil, this is a big, huge capacitor, big battery that stores a single charge, and then I press the button, makes a little clicking noise, and then it gets your muscles to move. Like a TENS unit, yeah. But there's no electrodes, no anything on it. It's just the magnetism here. So this is all plastic. That's not conducting. It's not even touching my arm. And it still gets it to twitch a little bit. So depending on the protocol that you're using, that can treat different things. Let me show you a couple of them. John, I'm not going to do these on you, but I'll show you a few. So this is the one, this is what it would sound like for a PTSD treatment. Just one click for 600 pulses. So this goes on for about 3 minutes.
It's automatic. How do you attach it?
I hold it in place on the right spot in the head.
You have to do the pulses.
Nope. I press a setting on here and that tells what it does. So I press start and then it goes. I just have to hold it in the right spot. Let's see. For anxiety, this is what it sounds like.
I'm familiar with that sound.
Sorry?
So you have to hold it in that same spot.
Yes.
What happens if you break that cycle?
Then the number of pulses, your brain doesn't know how many pulses it's supposed to get or what the right number is. A lot of it is just round numbers based on what scientists have kind of determined. We hold it in the right spot during the whole treatment. If you do have to move or leave or whatever, or you're feeling nervous, the worst thing that happens with TMS is nothing. It's not like antidepressants where there are a lot of bad side effects or anything like that. Like the worst thing that happens if somebody doesn't respond to TMS is they just don't respond. They don't notice a difference. They might notice a mood dip for a couple of weeks or something, but then things tend to kind of level out afterwards. And then let me show you what the sequence is like for depression treatment, for focus, for things like that. Sounds. I'm not, because it doesn't do a ton unless you're doing the full session, but just for a little bit.
Just so we can watch it twitch.
Yeah, she's
Yeah. All right. All right. We want to see.
They're all about the entertainment here.
All right. So this is what it would look like for a depression treatment. I'm just going to do a couple of pulses, John, if you're all right with that. So I'm just going to hold this in the right spot of the head here. This one might feel a little stronger because there are some nerves that go through this area of the brain here, the area of the scalp. His eye might twitch. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Not bad?
No.
All right. Great. So that's what it's like.
How long is the whole session?
A whole session, depending on the protocol, is anywhere from 3 to 10 minutes. So not too bad. Most protocols are 3 minutes. The 1 day treatment, 20 sessions in a day, is 3 minutes, 20 times during the day. So it makes the day go by pretty quick. You get in the chair for 3 minutes and then get out and sit down, relax. We bring you lunch, and then you're back in. Yep. And then you're back in the chair for the next session 30 minutes later. All right, and that is TMS. John, how are you feeling?
Great. Well,
Great.
what else can you make twitch?
Here, let me go ahead and grab that cap from you here.
Okay.
So with the the protocol where there's 5 sessions,
Yes.
person coming in and gets treated for 3 to 5 minutes.
Yep.
And then they're out.
3 to 5 minutes, and then they come back depending on the timing of the protocol. So for the one that insurance covers, it's once a day. You're in the chair for 30 minutes for that one, which is why we like to try and do the cash pay options, because they're twice as good and it's a lot more convenient for the patient. So you
Have 5 days in a row for 3
come
minutes.
5 days in a, so for the 5-day option, it's 10 sessions during the day for 10 hours, once an hour. So it's an all day thing. It's from 7 in the morning until about 5 p.m.
Is it daily or once a week, or how do you set up?
For the 5-day option, it is daily for 5 days. Yep. For the 1-day option, it's just 1 day and you're done.
So
So you
you
can
can
do
do
1
1
day
day
for 5
sessions,
days.
so you can do 10-hour increments.
Yes, yeah. So the 3-minute session and then an hour break, and then a 3-minute session and then an hour break. Yep.
You have to be like diagnosed in order to do TMS.
Depending on the protocol, yes. Like, for example, we're not going to treat the PTSD target for somebody that doesn't have PTSD. It doesn't have to be a formal diagnosis, though, because all of this is pretty subjective based on symptoms. And that's also what the consultation with our clinical director is for. Thomas will meet with you, and you don't need a referral. Correct. You can, if you
Anybody
want,
can do it.
anybody can do this. And if you meet with our clinical director and he decides that this is a good fit, then anybody can do it.
All right.
All right.
Any other questions? No? Who wants to help somebody? Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
You guys all figure out who you can help. Awesome. Thank you.